This podcast brought to you by All Weather Decks. Let All Weather Decks create your outdoor living space. Decks, patios, roofs, pergolas, walls, and fire pits, large or small, give All Weather Decks a call at 913-206-1974 or go to allweatherdecks.net.
Pack your bags, start the car, and get on the road. It's time to go across the country, 2 minutes at a time, for the biggest stories of the day, where they're happening.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Indianapolis, Indiana. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Cleveland, Ohio. Boston, Mass. Miami, Florida.
It's the 2-minute drill on the program.
Second half of the program begins right now, going around the country, talking to the people covering the stories where they're happening. Adam Schefter from ESPN still to come this hour. Trent Green next hour, talking about the Chiefs. Well, not so kind of gloomy outlook right now. We'll get into that with Trent Green coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Right now, let's head around the country. Started off in Atlanta, Georgia. Our man Chris Domino, 680 The Fan in Atlanta is there. Chris, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Listen, we had one of those 2 and 3 day stretches we don't have around here very often.
Yeah, that is the UGA number 1. The Falcons win in London, and the Braves now up 2-1. Let's start with let's leave it this way. What's the biggest story in Atlanta out of those three things? Yeah,
it's the Braves. It really is. I just left the building today, and I don't know. Somebody will tell me the Elias people are probably working on it. I don't know if a guy's ever gone 3 straight postseason games with pinch hit appearance and down 3 for 3 with 2 home runs. But Jock Peterson today, and I joked. I said if it was an NHL game, it was Ian Anderson's arm, Dansby Swanson's glove, and your first star of the night is Jock Peterson's bat, which we found out is Anthony Rizzo's bat. He done stole it before he got out of Chicago and came to Atlanta. So Anthony Rizzo gets a half a star, I guess, for participating in what Jock Peterson's done the last few days.
And do you expect him to close it out in the next game?
Look, the team's thrown 2 shutouts in a row. I mean, they've given up 2 runs in 26 innings now, which is, you know, their arms, their rotation, and their bullpen. It's certainly read on paper better than what Atlanta had, and it's been Atlanta's arms that have really shut this thing down. I like their chances. You know, nothing around here is done till it's done, and I'm certainly not going to be talking about what are we going to do tomorrow night? Where are we going to get beers? I don't live in that world, and I've lived here 28 years. I really don't live in that world. But they've got a really good shot. I mean, it's going to be probably a bullpen game tomorrow, which maybe changes the dynamic. But, you know, they made plays. They're winning moments. You don't have to be the best team. It's football, it's basketball, it's baseball. You don't have to be the best team. You just have to win enough moments. And that's what they've done certainly in the last 2 games.
All right, Georgia, atop the polls. I asked you this last week. Are they the best team in the SEC? Now that Alabama has fallen, I would think that's a resounding yes.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? So they haven't won a national title in 41 years. But you know it's been 39 years since they were the AP number 1? They've been 39 years without being an AP number 1. So that just happened. Game day, which was just here a couple of weeks ago, was coming back because here comes undefeated Kentucky. And, look, there's a big vibe. I think the Braves are a bigger story because of, you know, the time of the year and you know, their roller coaster ride this year was really sort of manic, which has made this little mini run now a little bit more enjoyable. But Georgia, if you're going to ask me what the best unit in Atlanta is, and maybe what the best unit has been in a long time in and around the state of Georgia, it's Georgia's defense. They are legit, and I mean they're looking at the scoreboard. I know you're not supposed to, but they're looking to throw shutouts. They're looking to hit quarterbacks. They're really different looking this year than they've been in the last handful of years, which makes it a really viable unit that you can ride to at least the Final Four in college football.
You mentioned undefeated Kentucky is next. 23.5-point favorites, Georgia is. Is that spread correct?
I guess, because, you know, they're just not expecting, you know, people to score against this team. You know what's crazy? Duran, I don't know the last time it happened where the backup quarterback is now, you know, at least a little side-eye. We call it side-eye and side mouth when guys go, is he really supposed to change quarterbacks now? I know the other kid is supposed to be better. It's all that talking out of the side of your mouth because you don't want to be the one to say it out loud first. Is the kid who used to be a walk-on really the guy who's supposed to be a quarterback? That's how good a story it's been, but that's how good the defense has been. I'm not telling you it doesn't matter who the quarterback is, but the fact that you got a kid whose nickname is the mailman, who was literally a walk-on and finally got a scholarship, is playing this well, it's sort of a different vibe around this team. They've been good. This one just feels even a little bit better than that.
All right, the Atlanta Falcons get a win in London against the lowly New York Jets.
Yeah.
But at 2-3, I mean, they're only a game out of what would be a playoff spot. Is there any hope that Atlanta can get things going and fight their way into the playoffs?
You can be a bad team and beat badder teams, and that's really what's happened a couple of times. And look, it beats the alternative, no doubt about it. They dumbed their way into a loss because they got conservative, but they did come back yesterday and do what it is they didn't do in the last game, which was not figure out a way to run out the clock with a lead. If you're leading in the fourth quarter, 7 minutes left, you're supposed to win football games. You really are, unless you're just not bright or just you lucked into having a lead. So at least it was a different game plan 7 days later. I don't believe so. Jameis Winston he's an enigma and probably worse than that. Tampa Bay is going to win the division. New Orleans, I'm not so sure how good they are. Carolina, when McCaffrey went down, you can make a case you might not be, even though they've got a good defense, better defense than the Falcons. They might be the third best team, and you still might be fourth, but you might actually have a couple of things. Matt Ryan's had a really good couple of weeks. It's crazy, 50,000 yards, 5,000 completions, whatever numbers he's hitting. I hope, and I don't think it happens enough in this town, I think people need to look around and go, there is something for being really, really good, if not flashy, spectacular. And the fact that Matt Ryan's the quarterback of this team has really given them a chance to win football games still to this day.
Chris Domino in Atlanta. Great stuff as always, buddy. We appreciate it. Have yourself a great week.
All right, man. Enjoy the rest of the week, sir.
Ari Temkin, 105.3 The Fan, and Sirius XM Big 12 channel in Dallas, Texas is next. Ari, how are you, sir?
What's going on, sir? And how are you, buddy?
Well, doing all right. Maybe not as well as the Cowboys. How good are the Dallas Cowboys? Are they truly maybe the best team in the NFC?
I mean, it's hard to argue against. Look, I know we've talked about this in the past, but this offense is extremely explosive. And so the big thing with this year, Sarin, was could their defense just be average? Last year they did not get average defense. They were one of the worst defenses in the NFL. And obviously the injury to Dak Prescott didn't help their offense. So, you return everybody on offense and hope that you, with, 8 of your 11 draft picks, help to infuse some talent at the defensive side of the football. Dan Quinn, of course, the former Atlanta Falcons head coach, comes over as the defensive coordinator, and he simplified things, and he's really gotten a level of buy-in from these young guys. And so, so far, this looks like a team that has an explosive offense with an average defense, and perhaps even better than that. But I think what we saw in the Tampa game to open the season is sort of an indication of, the big picture with this team. They're going to beat up on bad teams. That's what they did yesterday. They did the last 2 weeks, and really over the last 4 games, other than the Chargers, who that's an impressive win for them week 2. But they'll get Kansas City, obviously, in November. And, when you look at their schedule in terms of quarterbacks they're going up against, Mahomes is probably the next one that you circle in terms of a litmus test, a true litmus test for this defense. So, look, I think this is certainly one of the best teams in the NFC. They have an unbelievable offense that is really difficult to game plan for. In fact, I think it's impossible to game plan for. And, it's just about their ability to get stops. In the Tampa game to open the season, they didn't get a stop when they needed to, and that's going to be one of the sort of looming pieces of this team all year is if you're up 2 or up 5 or 6 at the end of a playoff game, do you trust your defense to get a stop? And that's going to be looming over this team all year.
Dak Prescott, the odds-on favorite to win the Comeback Player of the Year award. He's playing some of his best football. Does he not get enough credit? Because you certainly don't hear his name thrown around with Patrick Mahomes, except for when it comes to his contract.
Yeah, no, is he on Mahomes' level yet? No. I don't know that anybody's in that stratosphere. But we've talked about this over the years. I think people are finally starting to understand how good of a quarterback he is. I think the people who cover this team, that see this team, have seen how much he's grown. And look, he went from being a pretty good starter to being a really good starter to being a top 10 guy, and now probably a top 5 guy. So it's pretty substantial growth that he's seen over the last few years. But he's smart now, and I think that's the thing that he's added. Beyond the physical traits, leadership pieces. Like, he really understands what defenses are trying to do to him. He and Kellen Moore now have worked together for 3 straight years. They're just in sync. And Kellen Moore, he certainly has to be on a short list of head coaching candidates across college football in the NFL over the next year. He's really marvelous in terms of, schematically what this team is doing. They're so multifaceted. They're so matchup oriented, and they change every single week. It's fun to watch.
Texas can't close the deal with Oklahoma. How devastating a loss is that for the Longhorns?
Yeah, it's funny because, Seren, if you had told Longhorn fans the final score of this game before the game happened, I think most of them would have been pretty excited about it, quite frankly. I mean, you want to beat Oklahoma, but given Oklahoma was a favorite to win a national championship this year, they had the Heisman Trophy frontrunner to start the year, and where Texas was in year one under Sark, I think, again, most Texas fans would have been okay with it. The problem is, when you watch the game and you go through it, they blew an 18-point lead multiple times. They were up 18 points with 2 minutes to go in the third quarter. And, I mean, it's amazing they didn't win that football game. And what's even more incredible is there's a moment in that game where Kennedy Brooks, the Oklahoma running back, ran 65 yards out of the Oklahoma 3, and then he fumbled, and it was called a fumble on the field. Texas recovers the fumble of 18 points going into the fourth quarter, only his knee was down. And that single play completely changed the entire complexion of the football game.
Yeah, it did, and eventually it gets away, and Oklahoma has a great comeback. They make the quarterback switch, and now all's right with the world with Oklahoma in the top 5 and maybe earning it. We'll see where they go from here. They've got TCU next. Texas has got what does Texas have next? I don't even remember.
Oklahoma State,
yeah, that's a big one. 5.5-point favorites are the Horns against Oklahoma State. Ari Tipkin in Dallas, Texas. Great stuff, buddy. We appreciate it. Have yourself a great week.
You too, sir, and be well, brother.
Mark Rogers, 98.1, the sports animal in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, is next. Mark, how are you, sir?
I think I've finally recovered from the game on Saturday. That was a wild ride.
That was a wild ride. Oklahoma coming all the way back. They make the quarterback switch at halftime. Let's start right there before we talk about the game. What's the future with Spencer Rattler?
Well, I think that he's got a decision to make. There really isn't one for leaving now that I think would benefit him. I do think he's going to be the backup going forward, but entering the transfer portal could something he could do after the season, or even enter the draft and try to see if there's some kind of future for him as a later round pick. But just walking away from the football team at this point doesn't seem to make the most sense to me.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that he does it, but I don't think anybody thinks he's going to continue on at OU, right? That after this year he'll be headed someplace else?
Yeah, I think so. And again, most people had him projected as a high first-round pick. He's played pretty poorly this year. I think some of it is that his skill set doesn't mesh very well with Lincoln Riley's offense. He's just not a running quarterback or not much of a threat to do it. He's got a lot of work that he needs to do on his game, but I still think there's a lot of potential. So if he does choose to play in college, I think next year, definitely would be someplace other than Oklahoma.
The fans thought the time to do this was sooner. They got done.
Right.
They got it done in just the nick of time, right? Like to come back and actually get the win against the Longhorns. Why wasn't it done sooner? Because it certainly looks like there's a big difference between the two.
It's a great question. I think as a coach, you're loyal to all of your players, and I think there's almost part of a succession that you'd like to see. Like for Lincoln Riley would set up, all right, Caleb Williams this 1 year, and you have Rattler have a great season. He goes on to the pros, and then 2 years of this, and it just didn't work out that way. And I think that it was gutsy of Lincoln to make the call. I think the football gods kind of shined on it with him scoring a touchdown on that short yardage play where he's actually been on the field a few times in those situations this year already. And then the way the team responded in the second half, I think affirmed that decision more than anything else.
They host TCU. They're 11.5-point favorites. Any worry about a letdown?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you have to worry a little bit just based on OU's play this year has been somewhat inconsistent. The defense last week shows some weakness. They're elite up front. I think they're really good rushing the passer, stopping the run. But in the back, the secondary and the linebackers, they got all kinds of problems. So it's by no means an OU team that we thought was complete at the beginning of the year that had a shot to contend and play in a national championship playoff. It can get there, but they're going to have a lot of improvements in some different areas.
Texas stays in the polls, at least in the AP poll. They stay in at number 25. Oklahoma State has them next. Texas, a 5.5-point favorite against the number 12 team in the country, Oklahoma State. Is this spread the right spread for this game?
It's going to be a much different game than what we had on Saturday because I do think Oklahoma State's defense is complete. I think they're good at all three levels. They've got a bunch of experience there, and I think it will be much more problematic for Texas to score. I don't think they can just throw a pass to a wide receiver and let him run through one tackle, and then there's nobody else to get him. I also think that Texas defense, as bad as it's been, will play a little better. Oklahoma State is just gone basically to the old school format of we're going to run the football. We'll let our quarterback do a little bit here and there, but we don't trust him that much. So I think that, to me, I think 5.5, with the way Texas defense has played, I almost like Oklahoma State in the game. I do think Texas has got a lot of offensive weapons, and Sark's really good on that side of the football. But, wow, defensively, there's nothing to indicate that Texas is good.
NBA just over a week away from getting started. Are there any expectations for the Thunder this year?
Absolutely. Finish in the bottom three of the league so they can have a chance to get into the draft lottery, which is what they were, I guess, trying to accomplish last year but failed. Other than that, it looks really bleak, Soren. And I think that, the fan base, how many people are going to be in the arena this year, it will be curious. But I do think that this season, with the moves they've made in the off season, they're going to try to be one of those teams that has a real high chance to get in the top three.
All right, we'll see if they can pull it off. Mark Rogers in Oklahoma City. Great stuff, man. We appreciate it. Have yourself a great week.
You too. Thanks, Soren.
It feel like LA.
Pete Fox, KLOS in Los Angeles, California's next. Pete, how are you, buddy?
Hey, doing good, man.
How good are these Chargers? Are they the best team in the AFC?
That was an impressive win yesterday, don't you think? You get into those shootouts and anything can happen. And Justin Herbert played with a cool head and then pulled it out. I thought they would win, but not that way and not, in such a high-scoring affair. So the thing I guess you would look at from that game and go, I'm a little curious on this is the defense. I mean, both of those teams have really good defenses, and it just was overpowered by both offenses. And that just happens sometimes, right? You get into those shootouts, and you just have to play the hand that's dealt to you. Excuse me. So I think it was amazing that they were able to pull it off, really unique way at the very end with the Browns pushing Austin Eckler into the end zone. I don't know if you caught that whole thing, but pretty smart play. And then Staley, after the game, was talking about whether or not he thought it was legal. He wasn't sure because that's not what he was looking for. Fortunately, it worked out to their benefit. But, I think if the offense can push the guy in, why can't the defense? So that was definitely interesting for the way that game came to an end. But I think they are, the best team in the AFC West right now. So the Chiefs fans don't hate me.
Yeah, is Herbert converting fans in L.A.?
Absolutely, yes, a lot. And, that's with Sam Bradford having a very good season and on a very good team. So without a doubt, he is the darling in L.A., and I think to a certain extent across the nation as far as football fans go, for sure.
How good are the Rams at 4-1? They handled the Seahawks with ease. Matt Stafford did bang up his finger in that game, but are they a team that can lay claim to being the best in the NFC?
I think the question, Soren, is how good are the Cardinals? So the Rams are good, but the Cardinals, as we talked last week, made them look bad. So, I guess we're a little surprised about the way this division is shaping up so far. Everyone thought the Seahawks and Niners were going to be much better than they are right now at 2-3 apiece. So, I think the Rams are very, very good. Coming off a butt whipping from the Cards, they went up to Seattle and took care of business. They ran the ball effectively. They never really let Seattle grab a hold of the game. The closest they got was the 2 points there, 16-14 in the fourth. So, I was impressed with that win coming off the way they looked against the Cards. So anytime a team can rebound off of a tough loss like that at home, I think they have all of the parts, and they're still, healthy for the most part. So as of right now, they're a very good team as well.
8:30 Central Time, Dodgers and Giants tonight. Game number 3 of the series tied at 1. Where's the confidence level for the Dodgers in this series?
Well, I don't know. It's funny. The fans aren't super confident. I don't know why. Coming into this one tonight, with Scherzer on the mound and a 2.31 home ERA versus Alex Wood has got a 4.2 road ERA. Fans should be very excited, and the Dodgers have been very proficient at hitting the ball out of the yard at Dodger Stadium. So I was surprised to hear from fans today that they're a little worried, apprehensive, nail-biting, not confident about this game tonight, because this is a big one, right? After getting the home field advantage back with the game on Saturday, the win in San Francisco at Oracle, this is a huge game for them tonight with Max Scherzer, who's been your best pitcher of late. So they need to win this one. I think if they lose this one, it's going to take a whole lot to win this series.
NBA just around the corner. What's the expectation? I know it's championship or bust when it comes to the Lakers, but it might be old folks home or bust when it comes to the Lakers as well. I mean, is there any fear? I'm sure there's a lot of it that this team is just too old to do what they wanted to do.
Yeah, of course. And the fans right now are talking a lot about what they've seen in the preseason games, which, by the way, don't include LeBron James yet. So, I don't know how you can criticize what they're doing. They're like they have over the last few years. They're still trying to put it all together, and they will be trying to piece it together for a good portion of the beginning of the season. They're, it's in, Russell and LeBron. It's a season. This is a work in progress. Obviously, they're going to win some games on talent alone. But as far as being a championship contender, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. I wouldn't be surprised if they were a contender for the championship because you got a lot of talent, and I usually wins. But it could be a train wreck too. That wouldn't surprise me either. I think everyone else across the nation would love to see the train wreck. The people here in L.A. are hoping for another championship.
Yeah. Well, I mean, trust me, I think it'll be interesting to see what it's. Hey, it's a work in progress after LeBron stares down Russell Westbrook because he won't give up the ball. I think it's going to be interesting. If it all comes together, it could be great. It also could be a disastrous train wreck.
Yeah, and then he goes to the Charger game and is cheering for the Browns. I don't know how L.A. fans feel about that, but I was surprised.
I don't know if the people in California know this. He's from Ohio.
I know, but aren't you supposed to root for where you live and where you work and who pays you the big bucks? Or at least just, sit there and be non-committal. Just enjoy the game and cheer on the inside.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe you should be that way. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how the Lakers do. That's for sure. Great stuff as always. Pete Fox in Los Angeles. Always appreciate the time, buddy. Have yourself a great week.
You too, man. Thanks.
Local talk plus national headlines from the people who are there. The 2-minute drill on the pro Seren Petro on Sports Ring WHB.
He's been a top NFL insider for 15 years.
We'll see how that's received.
Well, it's interesting, too, because this is all...
Hold on a second.
Adam's on the phone.
Okay.
We'll talk That's how good he is. That's how good he is. I'll tell you what.
He's been honored by Frank Caliendo.
Based on what I've been told, word around the league is many fans struggle understanding what an NFL insider is all about.
He's even been in the movies. He's Adam Schefter of ESPN in the program.
Welcome back here in the program here on Sports Radio 810 WHB as we make our way through a, frustrating Monday for Chiefs fans. Always great to talk NFL football with Adam Schefter. He's brought to you by our friends at Twin Peaks Restaurant. Great spot for you to go watch some Monday Night Football, some Major League Baseball playoffs going on right now. Nobody's got a better TV set up, 29-degree draft beer, and, of course, that made-from-scratch menu. Twin Peaks, never settle. We welcome Adam Schefter here to the program. Adam, how are you, sir?
Hello there, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Wish I could say the same about our Kansas City Chiefs. They're having their struggles. Did anybody see them still struggling? Like I could see the Bills winning. I don't think anybody saw the way the Bills were winning. That had to be a shock to most people in the league, didn't it?
I think it was a surprise. I mean, you just think of the Chiefs at home being the dominant team in the conference. And the way they looked last night was not that way. The Buffalo Bills looked like the way that the Kansas City Chiefs normally look. They look like the dominant team in the conference. And the Chiefs look like the way you would expect the Bills to look. And it almost felt like it was a little bit of a changing the guard last night. And the Chiefs now find themselves in a little bit of trouble here. It's 2-3. It's not gone the way they thought. They lost to the Ravens. They lost to the Chargers. They lost to the Bills. And you know what's interesting about that Chiefs team to me is that they've lost to 3 good young quarterbacks. Again, I always think of Patrick Mahomes as the best quarterback in football, period. And I think he is. But I don't know that the separation between him and some of these other guys now is quite as great as we might have thought, if that makes any sense. Josh Allen is probably better than we realize. And Justin Herbert, as I said to you on this program, I think we've discussed this many times, is really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah,
and so those guys are capable of keeping pace with somebody as special and unique as Patrick Mahomes.
And I think there's kind of the aura around the Chiefs is gone, right? Not that it was necessarily an aura of invincibility, but teams walked in kind of waiting to get beat. And I think that's been stripped, right? That's one of the things that's no longer there. Teams come in to play the Chiefs confident.
I still think you look at them and you say, boy, this team is still so dangerous when they're healthy, when they're right. You know, Cheetah and Kelsey and I mean, all those guys. I don't think that's all that different, but there's been something missing. They're just not the same team. They're a little bit flawed. And with that being the case, I guess other teams do feel like they can go in there and do what they need to or want to against Kansas City. But they just, something just seems off to me.
It was around this time of year, maybe even a little bit later in 2014, that Tom Brady came in and the Chiefs put a beat down, and everybody said, boy, that's it. That's the end of Tom Brady. Not only was it not the end of Tom Brady, but even that year they would go on to be Super Bowl champions. A lot of people, that's what, Chiefs fans immediately are finding. Okay, here's the scenario. How about this? This is the Tom Brady Monday night loss here in Kansas City. This is the one that rises, brings the Chiefs out of the ashes. They rise like the Phoenix, from the ashes and get going here. Reality is, like, you're 5 weeks into it and you haven't played a lick of quality defense. Can you think of a team that suddenly started playing decent defense after not putting one good effort out there in the first 5 games?
Well, tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, this has been a little bit of their habit to not play great defense and then come on and get better as the year goes on and get it together and play well in the second half. And maybe we'll do that again. But you just watch the defense and it just looks broken right now. They're giving up big plays, big yards, big numbers, big everything. And that's problematic. That's troubling. And we'll see if they can get a handle on that. I don't know if they can. I just don't know if they can.
Is there a word around the league when you talk to people? Is it talent or is it scheme? Is it both? What's the vibe around the league when people talk about the Chiefs' defense?
Well, I think when you break down like that, it's probably a little bit of everything. I mean, they've got some people there that make some plays. Look, last night, they're without arguably their top cornerback. They're without Chris Jones. But I don't think that excuses what happened. It doesn't change that, right? I mean, they're usually in a situation where they can overcome those things. And they couldn't do that last night.
No, it became clear that they can't just spot people a lead and then come back and get it done. And that's the other side is the defense has been broken seemingly all year. But now there's questions starting to creep in about the offense. Like, where is, Andy Reid's brilliance, right? That maybe, the league is caught up to them schematically, right? What you would expect in some degrees for that to be the case. Nobody just sits and takes it forever. Everybody's always trying to scheme to get better at you. Sure. And they now know what's coming at them. And that's why your defense can't be horrible, because eventually people start to catch up to you on offense.
Yeah. I mean, but I don't know that's it. I just think that they're just not playing at the same level. The defense is struggling. They're falling behind. They're not playing with the lead. There's a lot of things you can look at and say, well, this isn't going exactly the way it has. It's not going right. I think it's caught up to Andy. I mean, look, I guess they've been watching it, studying it for a while. They've been the envy of the league and offense. and team that everybody studies and looks at as an example and a model. Maybe there's something to that. I don't know. I just go back to the basic premise of they've been such a great team for so long, and they're just not playing at that level for whatever reason right now. And I don't know that people are caught up. They're just not. They're not playing the type of football that we are used to seeing.
Can you give a contract to Tyrann Mathieu when the defense is playing this poorly, right? That's one of the big conversations that's out there. They've handed out all these contracts. He's going to be in his 30s for the entirety of any extension that they give him. And right now, would that actually be a prudent decision for them to put an extension together for him? He's part of what's going wrong right now on that side of the ball. What's his future look like in Kansas City from where you sit?
Well, I don't know if this is the time to make those decisions. And to me, that's the kind of thing they'll wait and see over time. They make these decisions at the end of the year. They're going to have to make some big cap decisions. You can't pay everybody. And you've got to know when to move off guys. I don't know how that one's going to work out. There are a lot of people that want to get paid. And the more you win, the more people want to get paid. So we'll just have to see how that one works out.
And maybe it's everybody wanting to get paid or having been paid that they've lost the hunger.
Well, that's one of the reasons it's so hard to repeat. It's just natural, right? When you haven't won and you haven't been paid, it's a little bit different. And it's a little bit a situation where you lose a little bit of that edge. It's just natural, right?
Yeah, it's just the way. It's just it is. It's how the human mind works. We're talking to Adam Schefter here in the program. Let's talk about John Gruden and the Raiders. What ultimately ends up happening with John Gruden in these emails? Is he looking at a suspension, a lengthy one? What? How does this play out? And how's the league handling it?
Well, the issue there is that I think a lot of people are asking that question. John Gruden was not an NFL employee when he sent that email. So you tell me. Is it up to the league to discipline him for something that he was not even employed by the league at the time? He was working for ESPN at the time. So I think it's a situation where, again, if ESPN knew he was working, then he'd be fired from ESPN maybe. But he wasn't working for the NFL at the time. So it's hard to know exactly how long, what will happen here, whether the league or the Raiders have to take action. So we'll see.
Is it clear as to whether or not they have jurisdiction? Is this the kind of thing that, hey, your past is unbecoming to the NFL, so the NFL can still take action? Or is it like you said, he worked for ESPN, so there's nothing they can do? Press on.
Well, listen, I think that the biggest thing is his reputation and character are basically maligned and assailed and criticized. And so I think that that's the situation. That may be the biggest thing. And I think that, you saw how the team responded yesterday. How much of that is connected to the situation with what happened over the weekend? I don't know, but they lost to the Bears at home pretty bad, right? So we'll see about that.
The 3-2 Bears, miraculously, perhaps, but 3-2 Bears. Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I think that's the real question: is can he still be a leader? Right? Can he lead what is largely an African American league? Is he going to have the voices? That's ultimately going to be Mark Davis's call. If the league is not going to suspend him, is Mark Davis has got to look at it. I would think legally, though, if you put the team and or the league in a bad light, I'm sure there's code of conduct policies in these coaches' contracts to where there may be a way. I know, hey, 10-year deal, he's not going anywhere. Yeah, unless he's violated the terms of his contract, right? Then it gets a lot easier to let him go.
Right. I agree with that. But again, this was done previously. And so it's hard to say that, he wasn't even working for the league at that point. So, That's the deal.
Yeah, I've seen some of the college contracts, right, because they're state universities and those become matters of public records that have language. Now, I don't know how enforceable it is, right? It'd take a team of lawyers to figure it out, but say, or anything from your past that will come to light that might put the school in a negative light is a reason for cause, right, to terminate with cause. So I'm, again, just having seen those college ones, I don't know what John Gruden's contract looks like. It's not a matter of public record, the way state university employees' contracts are. So we'll have to see how that one plays out. I'm curious. I know, listen, the Cardinals are 5-0, and that's a great story. I think if there's an underreported story, it's that the 49ers are 2-3, and this is really the norm for the 49ers under John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. At what point the fact that he is 31-38 and has had only one winning season, is that going to start to be a subject matter in San Francisco?
With Kyle Shanahan?
Yes.
I still view him as one of the top coaches in the league. I mean, so I don't know that it becomes an issue. They gave him a contract extension. If they want to fire him, somebody would want to hire him immediately. And so I don't view it as an issue.
5 years in the league and only 1 year above 500.
That's okay. Yeah, I think the guy is a really good coach, and they've had a lot of injuries and a lot of change quarterbacks. So no issues.
I think it's interesting the very different dynamics that are at play around Matt Nagy and how Matt Nagy's viewed, 2 playoff seasons in 3 years, and how Kyle Shanahan's viewed. And listen, I know guys in the league too, and there are people that say he's one of the most brilliant play callers and play designers out there. They say he's in the Andy Reid category and everything, but it is just amazing how, with Shanahan, everyone's happy and with what's going on in San Francisco. And, again, and he went to a Super Bowl, right? In the 1 year that he had above 500, it was a really good year, right? I recognize that. Matt Nagy hasn't done that, but how Matt Nagy is like a doormat and a punchline, and it is expected that he will be terminated at the earliest possible convenience for the Bears. And yet Kyle Shanahan seemingly can do no wrong.
I don't know how to compare the two. I understand what you're saying. I guess I would just say that with Kyle Shanahan, if the Niners want to move on, do I think he'd be hired the next day? I do. So I think there's something to be said for that.
Tonight, Monday Night Football, we'll be watching it on ESPN. You will be getting us ready for it with the Monday Night Countdown and, of course, at halftime and postgame and everything. The Ravens' 100-yard streak, this is their chance to set the record, break a record set by the Steelers back in the 70s. We know it got a lot of hubbub last week and when they ran it at the end instead of taking the victory formation. How big a deal is this record if they were to get it tonight?
It would mean something to the offensive lineman, the running back, the offensive staff, no doubt. When you go down in NFL history books and the 72 Dolphins, I don't think so. So, again, it would mean a lot to that organization, I believe.
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting to see if it does indeed happen. The Colts have a pretty good defense. They're middle of the pack against the run. They're top 10 overall. It'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. Is Chris Ballard on a hot seat in Indianapolis if this doesn't, I'm not saying this one game, but if this season doesn't get turned around?
Again, another guy that I think has got a great reputation, would have a job in a moment, to handle that team very well. Why are we putting all these people on the hot seat today, sir? I don't understand.
ESPN has a story written about Chris Ballard. I mean, I got that one from your website, talking about Chris Ballard and preaching patience, and usually those things aren't written because everyone thinks it's going well.
Yeah, well, I think, again, that was a team that was built to win the Super Bowl with Andrew Luck, and who knew that he was going to retire, but he did. And so when he retired, that changed things in Indianapolis, and it left him scrambling for a quarterback, and Philip Rivers tried to plug the hole, and now they're trying to sing Carson Wentz, and I still don't know if they have the solution they need to get to where they want. And I don't care whether you're Kyle Shanahan, Chris Ballard, Andy Reid, or Chuck Noll. If you don't have a quarterback at that position, you're going to struggle to win games, and you're going to come under fire. So unless you have that position solved, then you are going to have some issues that come up. And so to me, Chris Ballard is searching for the guy to complement that roster. He has not yet found it. But I don't think that is a knock on where he's at in his situation. in terms of staying power.
Time for our Final Four with Adam Schefter. It's brought to you by the University of Kansas Health System. If you have an urgent orthopedic or sports injury, the University of Kansas Health System has extended weekday hours. They've also got a Saturday morning walk-in clinic. You can learn more at kansashealthsystem.com/sportsmedicine. Adam, I will start you with this. Is Matt Nagy back in Chicago next year? Best guess.
Let's see how the season plays out. I don't like to forecast coach's future. I do that, all of a sudden it says that I'm saying that he's not returning or is returning, so we'll see how that plays out.
Okay. Does Kansas City make the playoffs?
I believe in the Chiefs, and I still think there's so much talent that they will turn it around, but they better play a lot better than they did last night.
Okay. Do you like crab cakes?
Love crab cakes, but I'm not in Baltimore. We're doing a show from New York this week. There are a few trips that they're not on site for. This is one of them. So I love crab cakes, but it'll be Italian food in New York tonight.
So you're not going to get the crab cakes. All right. And finally, if you were starting a franchise, who would you start it with, Herbert or Allen?
Woo. Wow. Wow. I mean, those are two incredible quarterbacks. And if I could, wow. Wow. I mean, who would you rather have, Elway or Marino?
Right?
I mean, that's what you're asking me.
Well, I would take Elway because of the ability to escape, and I think Elway is actually one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the history of the game, even though I know he gets plenty of accolades. I think his name, until Tom Brady came along, should have been up there in the conversation for the best that there ever was. So I would take John Elway on that one. This one's tougher because we don't have their whole careers, obviously, to judge on, but I like putting you on the hot seat. So,
but I would say this, that I said on Monday Night Countdown last week, and some people made fun of it. I said Justin Herbert is on his way to a Hall of Fame career, and I'm not one to make statements like that. But I've seen enough of that guy over 2 years to know that he's special, unique, and going to do great, great things. And I believe that one day we'll be talking about Justin Herbert. And I saw some people say, "Oh, already putting him in the Hall of Fame." Well, I don't mean to be over the top, but I've seen enough of that guy to know he is a Hall of Fame talent. Now, again, got to stay healthy, have to produce, win. There's a lot of things that have to happen over the course of the next 10, 12 years. But yes, I do believe that Justin Herbert one day is going to wind up in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Yes, that's what I believe.
I think you're right. I think you're right on that one, no doubt. And Josh Allen may join him there too. So,
I won't be surprised. I expect it almost.
Yeah.
Now look, sure, there's a lot that has to happen right during the course of a career in terms of how a person handles himself on and off the field, taking care of himself on and off the field. There's a lot of things that these guys have to do, but they both have that ability, talent, character to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and we'll see whether or not they can get it done. I mean, they're two special players.
Adam, great stuff as always, buddy. We appreciate it. Have a great call tonight on the Monday Night Football broadcast, and we will talk with you again next week.
Have a great day, sir, and thanks for having me.
The program with Soren Petro.
You ever quote anything besides statistics, Vulcan?
Yes, but philosophy and poetry are not appropriate here.
Weekdays from 2 to 6 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, the Joe's Kansas City Barbecue burnt end of the hour answer. How many teams have allowed at least 29 points in each of their first 5 games of a season?
Ooh, no idea. I don't even know where to begin on that one.
The answer is 4. This year's Chiefs, the 2013 Giants, the 2012 Titans, and the 1954 Chicago Cardinals.
You gotta like when you got a team in there that's 2 stops ago as one of the answers. The Chicago Cardinals playing for some Joe's Kansas City Barbecue. You can get it tonight. Take it home, watch a little playoff baseball, Monday Night Football with a spread from Joe's Kansas City. It's a great thing to have out at a tailgate as well. Go to joeskc.com to get your order in. And remember, you can send it anywhere in the country as well. We will take a break. When we come back, we'll get you the things you need to know. We'll hear some Andy Reid, the coach, upon the second review of last night's game Get his thoughts coming up next here in the program.
Time for our Deli Fresh end of the hour question. Sponsored by Good Sense. Chosen by KC sandwich lovers for 30 years. Good Sense. Not because it's easy, but because it's better.
All right, Derrick Henry now has more rushing yards in a 40-game span than any player in NFL history. Whose record did he break? Brought to you by Good Sense.